Members, it's truly my honor today to present my cousin and the cause of such consternation and heart attacks on behalf of members of my family reading news articles, the outgoing and just unbelievably interesting legislator, John Bennett.
Sir, Major Representative Bennett, you're recognized for a point of personal privilege once you get your stool in place.
I think I'm going to bypass the stool, unless Bobby wants to let me borrow his prune juice. You know, I was preaching a sermon one time, and I didn't have sermon notes. And when I got done, the pastor said, "Wow." And I was expecting this great accolade, you know. He says, he shakes his head, he says, "I've never seen anybody get from Genesis to Revelations in 30 minutes. He goes, "I don't even know what you said." He said, "You really should start bringing some sermon notes with you so you can stay on track." So for today, I have a few notes, and I'm going to try to stay on track. But sometimes I get excited, and I get a little off track, but I'm going to try to stay on track today. You know, I hadn't planned on doing an exit speech. I just wanted to humbly slide out of here and go home to my family, like Representative Hoskins and some of the other representatives that spent so much time up here wanted to do. However, as I listened to, and he's not even in here, Representative Inman, yesterday, it kind of provoked my thoughts a little bit because I hadn't planned on it, and I didn't work with the floor leader to do an exit speech. And Representative Inman said something that just made me think. And I thought to myself, well, are you being humble by not giving a speech? Or are you being selfish? You know, although that we give these speeches because we're the ones leaving and we are the ones actually giving the speech, in reality, it's not for us. It's for our families. It's for you all, our friends, our assistants, all the staff members that are here that's done so much for us. Really, it's for them. And they deserve to know what we think about them. So when Scott stated yesterday that maybe one day his kids might watch the video because they weren't able to be here to watch his presentation of his exit speech, and that it might have some kind of impact on them, I thought, you know what, I need to do the same for my kids as well. You know, I've got 6 kids and a wonderful wife. And my wife drove all the way up here in the middle of all the tornadoes this morning, and it's a blessing to have her with me today. Nicole, please stand up. This is my wife, Nicole. Some of you are probably wondering if I was even married because you've never seen her before probably, but we live 2.5, 3 hours away, and it's not exactly a lot of fun for her to come up here and sit through and watch all this stuff goes on, especially when she could sit at home in today's modern technology and watch it on the internet. That way she can call me names or one of you guys names because you're saying something about me or not for my bill, and you don't even know it. You know, my wife and my children, they've endured and sacrificed their entire lives following me around the world. I spent 21 years in the Marine Corps. When I got out of the Marine Corps off of active duty, I went into law enforcement. As Representative Meredith knows, you spend a lot of time away from your family. You get called out all hours of the night, and it's always a demand on you. And then, for whatever reason, I decided to run for office and spend 8 years up here at this Capitol. You know, some people think, well, it's only 4 months out of the year that you're there. It's not that hard of a job, but it winds up being a year-long thing, especially when you're in special session after special session. You spend 16 to 18 months up here in a row away from your families. It's hard on them. You know, I've only been here 8 years, but it feels like dog years. So if you times it by dog years, I guess it's 56 years. It wears on you after a while, and most of you guys know. But first and foremost, I just want to recognize my wife and just tell her thank you. My children, I just want to let you know that I love you and I appreciate you. It's been rough, and I appreciate you standing in the gap. It's just a true blessing to have them as my family. We all have our own families, and I'm sure you feel just as blessed as I do. And you probably tell them that from time to time, and I hope that I tell mine that I love them and I'm thankful for them as often as I can. You know, I've had some good times here at the Capitol. I've also had some memorable times in my district as a state representative. And these are the times that I'll always remember and carry with me and tell stories to my children and to my friends. One specific time I can remember Senator Allen is my senator. We both got elected at the same time. We were at a public speech or public forum, and they asked us both to speak. So I told Senator Allen, I said, you know, Senator Allen, it's cold outside. It was snowing a little bit. And I told him, I said, you know what, when I get ready to speak, I'm going to say this. Woo, boy, I sure appreciate you all being here tonight. It's snowing, and it is cold outside. And I asked him, I said, when I say that, I want you to say, well, how cold is it? He agreed. And we're standing there at the function, and I said, boy, I sure appreciate all you constituents coming out in the snow. Obviously, it's very important to you, and it's an honor for me to speak in front of you tonight, because, boy, it sure is cold outside. And out of the back, right on tune, he says, how cold is it? I said, it's so cold I saw a Democrat with his hands in his own pockets. I couldn't help myself. I was the first Republican ever elected in that district. And I had to tell that for you guys. You know, we've debated, we've gone back and forth, even some from my own party. But I just want to let you guys know I appreciate you. You're up here fighting for what you believe in, and so are we. And I figured opportunity only knocked once. I had to take advantage of it. I really do appreciate you over there on the other side of the aisle. We may not agree on, well, anything, but you always stand up for what you believe in. And I know exactly where you're coming from. I don't have to ask you. I don't have to say, hey, what do you think about this? Because I know. And I respect you for that. I respect that you stay true to your beliefs, and I respect that I always know where you stood on everything that we discussed or debated in this house. Not to mention, it was quite fun arguing back and forth with some of you. As a matter of fact, I'm glad Representative Walkie's here now that I'm leaving and I can't yell in the microphone anymore. I'm glad to know that he's taken up the mantle, and you're doing a fine job too, by the way, Representative Walkie. Sometimes you might want to try to figure out where the volume is on your voice box, but right now I think it's stuck on high. But you're doing a phenomenal job. You know, I guess since my desk mate tried to make me cry yesterday by getting all emotional and telling me he was going to miss me and stuff. Oh, by the way, I guess in LaFleur County, which is south of Sequoia County, which I represent, they make a bunch of sissies down there, so it doesn't bother them to cry. Of course, Lockhart was from there, too. He needed some anger management, so I guess they have them both down there. I'm just giving him a hard time. You know, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell my seatmate that I appreciate him. He hasn't been here very long, but he's been here long enough to make an impact on me. Rick, you're an honorable man. You're full of integrity and character, and I appreciate you. Thank you for being a pain in my tail end this year and last year, but more so, thank you for being a bright spot with my time beside you back there as we gossiped about everybody else and how horrible the bills were, and we still voted yes sometimes. Probably most of all, I just want to thank you for keeping us and all the crew in the back supplied with caramel candies. I know the pages, it took me a few minutes to figure it out, but I wondered why they all kept trying to come back to the back corner. It was because Representative West was back there throwing them caramel candies all day. So I'm certainly going to miss that. Speaking of sitting in the back row, I've got some great memories about being in the back row. Oh, by the way, does anybody know or ever wonder why I've sat back on the same back row for the past 8 years? You know what the main reason is? The media can't see the back row. I love the media. Sometimes I wonder if they love me, but they can't see the back row, and I figured it was probably better or safer for me to sit on the back row, so that's where I've stayed the whole time. They just can't see that back row. I'm sure it's quite comical. I would look sometimes when I was debating something controversial. I would see them leaned up as far as they could trying to look down, and they just couldn't quite get a good picture. I've had some rocky relationships with the media, especially the Tulsa World, especially Barbara Hulbert. Barbara, if you're up there anywhere or the Tulsa World, if I was ever mean-spirited to you or blunt with you or angry towards you, I just want to say I'm sorry, and I hope you forgive me, especially you, Barbara. We've had a rocky relationship, but you're just doing your job like the rest of us are up here. So I just want to tell you I'm sorry for saying any mean-spirited stuff or if I was ever rude to you. You know, any other media that might be up there as well, if I've ever been that way to you, then please forgive me. I get a little high-strung sometimes, and I have a spirit in me that just wants to fight, and I shouldn't, but sometimes I do, and I try to tamp that down, but sometimes I can't. So if you were on the receiving end of that, then I'm sorry. I'm sorry for being unprofessional, and I'm sorry if we've gotten crossways. So let me now digress back to the back row memories. Like I said, I've never moved off the back row in 8 years. I think the most ornery people are stuck on the back row. I'm pretty sure of that because they're all around me. My first session here, I voted no so many times. Somebody thought it was funny. They got a red button and they glued it on top of my green button with the white words on top that said panic. I don't know whatever happened to that button. I think somebody stole it. I was feeling a little mischievous one April Fool's Day. I've never told anybody this, so if something was broken, I'm not going to pay for it because I'm pretty sure statutes of limitations have run out. One April Fool's Day, I thought it would be funny because everyone uses these big copy machines on every floor. Well, I'm on the 3rd floor, and we had a big copy machine out there. You seen those really big paper clips? I stuck one of them on the machine, I stuck a piece of paper over it, and I made 250 copies, and then I put them back into the tray feeder underneath the machine. And I sat there for 10 or 20 minutes watching people as they print stuff off saying, how in the world did this paper clip get inside this machine? And they had the whole machine tore apart. I was afraid to tell anybody because I couldn't afford to pay for the copy machine, but they got it all put back together and they got it worked out. Once all the copies were printed out, then they figured out, well, it must have worked itself loose. You know, I don't know if y'all remember Mike Christian or not, but he sat in the back row with me too. Well, Mike was pretty high strung. He sat back there and he would say things and do things, and I think they really set me back there in my first session because they wanted me to keep an eye on him. Well, I will neither confirm nor deny that Mo, that's what we call him, liked to drink a little bit after the sun went down. But if he did, and he was sitting back there, he looks at me one day. We had a falling out with the floor leader. And he looks at me. He says, Johnny, he called me Johnny all the time. He said, Johnny, I'm going to go punch him in the mouth. I said, no, Mike, no, you can't do that. He's the floor leader. He said, I'm going to. And I said, don't do it, Mike, don't do it. He's like, all right, Johnny, you're right, you're right. And he sat there. He didn't say another word for 20 minutes. Just started doing his thumbs like this. And I could see him looking at me. And I said, Mike, you okay? He said, I'm going to do it. And he got up and he was walking down the aisle and I'm grabbing his shirt tails, pulling him back, saying, Mike, don't do it. And finally got in between both of them on the house floor. Thankfully, other people were standing up. And I'm not sure if the media even caught on to that, but I convinced him to go back to his seat. Boy, he was something else. I will never forget Mo. We used to sit back whenever Mike Reynolds was here, and Mike Ritz is still here. Randy Terrell was here. Randy used to sit over here, and we would ping pong questions back and forth on bills that we didn't like, and we'd just go round and round in circles. Paul Wesselhoff would get in on it sometimes, and others. And we would ping pong this stuff, and we'd hold the vote up, kind of like the Democrat Party does from time to time, for hours. But it was a lot of fun. Speaking of Randy Terrell and Mike Christian, the assistant for me and both of those guys both is sitting up here in the gallery tonight. Martha, please stand up. Martha is the backbone and the heartbeat of my office. And I want to thank you, Martha, for everything that you've done. You've done some great things for my constituents, you've done some great things for me, and you've taken great care of me, and I greatly appreciate you. You know, she let me think that I was in charge of that office, but it was really her. You know, she had a full head of hair that was brown when she started first working with me. Now she has all gray hair. Of course, I can't take all the credit for it because I think Randy Terrell and Mike Christian give her some of that too, but probably most of that was from me and my constituents. But Martha, thank you for taking care of us. You're a strong woman. You're a special woman. And it takes someone special like you to be as strong as you are and do the things that you do, taking care of your grandchildren, your family, and others, and still coming up here and taking care of us. Thank you. I really appreciate you. You know, another person who's kept me out of trouble and helped me get my message out was Tricia. Is she here? Tricia, please stand up. Thank you, Tricia. I've sent her a lot of... Thank you. I'm sure I've given her fits. I would send her, type out my thoughts and send to her, and she would send it out. It sounded so much better and was more grammatically correct when she sent it back to me than when I sent it to her. So thank you for taking care of me. I greatly appreciate it. You were just phenomenal. You know, I certainly have to thank all the research team. For some reason, I have an extremely curious personality. Whenever I would research bills, I would call the research department and say, hey, how long ago was this original bill put into law, and why was it put into law? And they were probably pulling their hair out too, saying, why on earth would he make us work so hard to find these answers? So for all the research team and all you guys that helped me out find the answers to all those questions, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate everything that you've done for me. So I just want to thank the research team for that. You've been extremely patient with me, and you helped me out tremendously. Speaking of people who have been patient with me, Stu, are you in here? Stu, I appreciate you. I appreciate all the Reagan pictures I bugged you for and you brought to my office. Except for the time you dropped it off at George Fott's office. I think you did that on purpose so he would steal it. But I got it back. But I want to thank you for bringing that Reagan picture to me. I do want to tell you publicly, though, Stu, if I don't get my Article 5 picture, you may have to find someone in here to help you change a flat tire this evening. I told my assistant to tell him that when he came by, and he said, that's okay. One, you don't know what my car looks like, he said, and two, he goes, good luck changing yours first. I certainly want to thank you, Stu, for making me look taller in all my pictures. Yeah, I've had a lot of compliments about those. I want to thank all the sergeants. All the sergeants have been great, who's always encouraged me. They told me funny jokes when I've come in, and they seem to know every one of our names and a lot about us, and I'm not sure if they're CIA or if they're just sergeants, but they seem to know an awful lot about it, and they've always given me a friendly smile when I needed it the most. And I'm going to tell off on some of them. I won't say which one it was, but a lot of times I would give a fiery debate in the back, and I would go outside, and those guys are your average, everyday American guys in the back. They just want to make a difference. They're there for a reason. So I used them as a gauge. Whenever I'd walk out, several of them would say, hey, good job. You really said it right that time. So it encouraged me. So those of you that did that, I greatly appreciate that. You know, I also want to thank the members of the Platform Caucus for holding true to the Republican platform beliefs. Sean and Tom and Rick and Chuck and Tess, George, Jeff, Travis, Mike, JJ, Jason, Kevin, Bobby, Dell, and all the honorary members who probably don't want their names spoke so they can get their bills heard. I just want to thank you for your support. I want to thank you for fighting beside me and for me, and I want to thank you for being men and women of integrity, honor, courage, and commitment. You know, I've got so many to thank, here tonight, and I know I have or will miss someone, and if that's you, then you know what, I'm sorry. But I just want you to know if I did miss you, it wasn't on purpose. I do appreciate you. To all my family and friends and constituents that I represent from District 2, thank you for sending me up here for 4 terms. When the chips seemed down, my opponents had more money, they had more resources, they had more name recognition, and it appeared that so many were against me, including my friends in the media. You, my everyday constituents, my God-loving, gun-loving families of District Number 2 came through and sent me back to represent them. They did it overwhelmingly, and I greatly appreciate it. So thank you, I appreciate you, I love you, and it's been a true honor and privilege to be your representative. It's been an honor to serve in this chamber with each and every one of you, whether we agreed or disagreed on anything. Some of you may not know this, but I hold a few records here in the legislature. Not only was I proud to receive the Mouth of the House Award my very first year here as a freshman, I do hold some records. Did you know that I was the only representative to ever get a discharge petition officially signed and get a bill heard on the floor despite the leadership not wanting to hear it? The only one. They come back the very next year and made it even harder to do a discharge petition. So I'm pretty sure it'll never be done again. That petition was for the open carry. They changed it. I'm certain that record will hold forever because they changed the rules to now so strenuous. Good luck, any of you ever trying to do that again. So I guess that could be my claim to fame. I also hold the record for the most death threats in the House. I'm pretty sure no one else is ever going to surpass that record. But you know what? It's a small price to pay for putting my foot to the tail end of those who didn't have the best interests at heart for our country and our state. Bring it on is what I say. Speaking of putting foot to tail ends, Representative Sears, are you in here? You got to be the toughest little guy I know, and I'm still trying to find that pot of gold. I'm not sure where you hid it, but I know it's somewhere. Now, Bobby Cleveland, now he's a tough guy too. He just can't hear anything you say, so I doubt he'll ever challenge you if you ever say anything wrong to him. Did you hear me, Bobby? I'm going to learn sign language so I can talk to Bobby. Mr. Speaker, Representative Eccles, Representative Wallace. Man, I have to say that you three, despite being here a relatively short amount of time, have been tested by fire. The things that have happened up here and the things that you've had to negotiate through has just been absolutely amazing. I don't know how you managed to herd all these cats in the same direction, but somehow you did it. I've had many talks with you three guys, and I've told you this before, and I'm convinced that you were sent here for such a time as this. It takes someone with your demeanor and your leadership and the things that you've had to do, the hard calls that you've had to make, even though I didn't agree with some of them, to get us where we're at today. It's a thankless job, but you kept on going. Each and every one of you in this chamber today, you have committed to serve in a thankless job. I want to thank each and every one of you. Some of you, like all the veterans here who have served, understand what sacrifice is and why it's so important that we keep fighting. You know, I served in 2 foreign wars, and I have seen some remarkable sacrifices made by men and women who gladly did it, and they didn't even know who you were. Some have given the ultimate sacrifice for so many that they don't know, and they never ask for anything in return. We have our own war hero, several war heroes right here in our own chamber. Did you know that Representative Josh West took a bullet for each and every one of you in the war in Iraq? Did you know that Representative Kennedy served in the Marine Corps in the wars in Iraq? We have our own heroes right here in this house. Some have given the ultimate sacrifice, and really we can never repay them for what they've done. Even some of their families are still paying for that sacrifice because their loved one will never return home from war, and they'll never see them again. Those of you who have been, you know what the taste of freedom really tastes like. You know what the cost and the sacrifice is. And if you haven't been, you'll never know what that taste is. To be fair to those of you who have never served, though, I will say this. I, too, didn't really understand until I went myself. As a matter of fact, as a child, I recited the pledge over and over in school. We did it repetitiously, and we never fully understood what it meant. I never realized how powerful those 31 words in our pledge were. Did you know there's 31 words in our pledge? Some of you are counting it in your head right now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 31 simple words. I never understood that until I served with those men and women that give that sacrifice, that ultimate sacrifice in some foreign country for each and every one of us, and they didn't even know us. We were in a firefight one time, and a good friend of mine, I don't know if for y'all that's been, they build these big privacy fences. They're like 10 foot tall. They're made out of dirt and mortar and stuff, sand. You could shoot right through them. We're stuck behind this wall, and we're taking fire from a higher position, and there's a hole in the wall, and I'm on one side of the wall, and a good friend of mine, the radio operator's on the other side of the wall, and I'm trying to get the radio operator over where I am. He was a young kid, and he's shaking his head, no, there's no way I'm coming across that hole in the wall because they were shooting into it. But I needed him over there, and I was freaking out because I wanted to call for fire on the position that was shooting on us, because it was my job to get those boys home. So we're sitting over there, and my friend's over there with the radio operator, and he's just sitting there against the wall like he's watching TV at the house, as calm as he can be. And I'm freaking out, and I'm scared, and I'm nervous, and I'm trying to get the radio operator over there, and the kid said, he's just shaking his head, no, I ain't coming. So finally, I guess, Ball tells him, hey, get over there or I'm going to kill you. So he comes running over there, and he sits down beside me, and I get on the radio to call for fire, and I look over, and Ball's looking at me with this calm demeanor, and he's whispering something. I'm thinking, what is he saying? Is there somebody friendly's on the other side? Is he telling me don't do it? So to the huge disappointment of the radio operator, I said, we're going back across. He said, no. I said, we're going, let's go. So we got back across where the hole was. I got down beside Ball and I said, what's going on, man? And he whispers again. And I'm in a hurry. I'm trying to dispose of this threat. I said, what is it? He looks me right in the face, and he says, why did Tigger look in the toilet? Thinking, he's lost his mind. PTSD, he's lost his mind. We're going to have to medevac him out of here. So I get back on the radio. I'm not paying any attention to him. He taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around, and he says it again. I said, I give up, Ball. Why? He said he was looking for poo. And I couldn't help myself but just start laughing right in the midst of all that chaos that was going on. And once that was done, I calmly got on the radio, I called for fire, we disposed of the threat, and we lived another day. But that is the value, that is the men and women that's serving us today. He was calm, and he did what he needed to do when I needed it the most. He wasn't worried about him, he was worried about me. A couple of weeks later, we were in Carmel, Iraq. We're on patrol, and he was shot in the neck and killed. When I inventoried his gear, he had a little Bible in it. They give you these little Bibles. And there was a page tabbed off. And I opened it to look, and it was in John 15 and 13. It said, a man hath no greater love than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. And that's what he did. He wasn't being selfish. He did it for each and every one of us. So when I got back to the States, when I heard those 31 simple words, I stood taller, my chest stuck out farther, and I was more proud than I ever was before because I understood what those 31 words meant. And the things that we do in this chamber, we represent those 31 words. And I wondered myself, how can I honor those men and women for those ultimate sacrifices? How can we do that? So that's what I've tried to do here as a member of this legislature. It's what I try to do as a husband, as a dad, and as a friend. The best way that we can thank and honor those who have given their lives for our freedom is to live the most honorable life that we can because they are the ones that made it possible. As I close out, I want to leave you with these final thoughts. And I hope it inspires you, and I hope it gives you a better understanding of where I'm coming from. And maybe one day, when my kids watch this video, they'll look on and they'll be proud of their dad. I want my family and my constituents and even you to know that God has a plan for each and every one of us. It's up to us to be obedient and faithful to His word and submit our will to Him so we can live a blessed life. We must all live a Christ-centered life with principles and values. Sometimes we have to fight for these principles and values. I have told many of you that I can negotiate anything, but I won't compromise my values and principles here in this chamber or anywhere else. Many times we're faced with situations that can cause us to consider compromising our values, though. Maybe you've been offered a job with a company you don't respect, but you really need the job. Maybe your beliefs are in the minority, but you don't want to become an outcast as a result. Or maybe you disagree with certain legislative practices, but you're too shy or too afraid to rock the boat or to stand up for what you really think or believe. When confronted with these situations, it's sometimes difficult to stick to your guns or to stand your ground. I think we all been there, especially in this building. Unfortunately, the more we compromise our values, the more of a negative impact it has on our mental well-being. And the more we compromise our values, the more we continue to do so. It is an endless cycle that only gets worse. Once you compromise your integrity, it's nearly impossible to get it back. On the other hand, confronted with these situations, it is sometimes difficult to stick to your guns or stand your ground. Maybe your beliefs are in the minority, but it's important that you stand for what is right. It's sometimes difficult to stick to your guns and stand your ground because it's just so unpopular. The more we compromise our values, the more that we'll continue to do it over and over and over. And it's an endless cycle. When we stand up for what we believe in, the benefits can have a tremendous positive impact. When you stick to your principles and values and fight for what's right, it builds your self-confidence. When we let others dictate what we should think and what we feel and do, it eats away at our self-confidence. We begin to distrust our own instincts and lose the ability to decipher what we really believe versus what everyone else wants us to believe. Although it may be difficult at first, the more we stand up for ourselves, the more we stand up for others, the more we stand up for what we know is right, which are our values and our principles, the more we will build our self-confidence, because it takes guts to express an unpopular viewpoint. It takes guts to say no when it's so much easier to just say yes. And it takes guts to risk losing a job, a bill, friends, or opportunities because someone won't like your opinion. However, the more you tap into your guts, the easier it gets, and the more confident you'll become. When you get to that point, you'll become a shining city on a hill for somebody that desperately needs it in a dark place. When you stand up for what's right and what you believe in, it helps you develop a strong sense of self. If we bow to others and their opinions and do things their way, whether right or not, we start to lose our own identity and we start to forget for what we truly stand for. Further, the less you allow yourself to think freely and develop your own belief systems, the more you become a follower without your own direction. On the other hand, the more authentic you are to your needs and viewpoints, the more you will understand your own sense of self. The more you understand who you are as a child of God and His will in your life, the more blessed you're going to be. Standing for your beliefs, your values, and principles will no doubt set you up for attacks. But if you stand strong, it will develop self-respect. Would you respect someone who went against their own values because it was convenient or because it was more popular? Probably not. And with good reason. Wishy-washiness is far from admirable, or for that matter, respectable. Yet, if you encounter someone with a less popular opinion who stands their ground, assuming the opinion or belief is founded in ethical principles, you would most likely have great respect for them. Same goes for the way you perceive yourself. So the more you stand up for your beliefs, the more self-respect you will develop. If you continually give in to what others want and compromise your own values in the process, you are going to lose respect for yourself. And others will lose respect for you as well. If you stand up for your beliefs and values, it will build your integrity. In a time when so many individuals are dishonest, do things to better themselves at the expense of others, expose their personal lives for a chance to be famous and do what feels good in the moment without thinking about the consequences, integrity is a characteristic that is especially unique. Doing the right thing or standing up for your beliefs may not be easy, but when you do, you know that you'll be able to look yourself in the mirror and feel good about yourself. You'll know that you did the right thing and that you had integrity. Standing up for what you believe in will allow you to be independent. As much as we like to believe that a hero or a heroine will swoop in to defend our honor, it is extremely rare. There are two things to consider. First, if you don't stand up for yourself or your beliefs, then how can you expect others to? And second, the person who should always be accountable to count on to stand up for you, no matter what, is you. What this means is that the more you stand up for your beliefs, the less you will rely on others to validate them. You'll reinforce your independence and ability to stand on your own 2 feet without anyone else to support you. If you stand up for your biblical beliefs and fight for them, you're not alone. God's there with you. The Bible tells us that greater is He that is in you than he that is in this world. If God be for you, then who can be against you? Now, I know we all sin and fall short of the glory of God. We all mess up and make mistakes. We couldn't be human if we didn't make mistakes or give in to what was easier once in a while. But learning from those mistakes, asking God to forgive you, standing up and dusting yourself off, believing in His plan for your life, and standing for what we believe in is what is most important. Now, I'm going to leave you with this today. For you, for my wife, and for my children, we all have an appointment with the divine and holy Father one day. And when you have your appointment, I pray that you're ready. Because that day will be your final judgment day. That is for you and you alone. But I ask you this, what are you going to leave your families? What will you leave your friends? Will your legacy be one that our family and friends are proud of? What will you be remembered for? I hope I'm remembered for standing up for what's right. The most important things in my life is God, my family, my country. And I hope that that's what I'm remembered for, because those are my priorities. I have a full-time office in my district, and when I'm not there, I'm here. I also operate 2 small businesses with my wife. I spend a lot of time away from my wife and my kids, a lot of time. Even when I was home in my district, I was still gone because of community events and answering phone calls, texts, or emails, which took me away from my family. I guess in a way they're used to it because I spent a lot of time away from my wife and kids while I was fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. As a matter of fact, when I was leaving on my last tour to Iraq, my oldest son, as we were leaving down the gangway to get on the plane, we said our tearful goodbyes. And my son was barely old enough to talk. He said, "Daddy, don't go." And that hit home with me. And I had to reprioritize. And when I got back, I got off active duty. They are my priority. Unfortunately, I've asked my family to sacrifice again and again, and I've asked them to sacrifice while I serve here. And just a few months back, my youngest son, who was 2 when I was elected, he's 10 now, he said to me with his big brown 10-year-old eyes, he looks up and he says, "Dad, you're a good state rep, but can you not run again so we can spend more time together?" I said, "Son, let me think about it." A couple of weeks later, he says, "Dad," we were sitting down having another father-son talk. He says, "Dad, you do a good job and I love you, but it's time to come home." Well, to my wife and to my son, I love you, and I'm coming home. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless the great state of Oklahoma. Thanks for the privilege.
This is a citation of recognition for John Bennett. Whereas John Bennett has faithfully and excellently served House District 2, Sequoyah County, in the state of Oklahoma as state representative for 6 years. And whereas John Bennett was elected to the House and when his sons were 2 and 4 years of age, the girls were still in high school and they are now overjoyed he is coming home. And whereas John Bennett's family has seen the struggles he has endured, and there is no way they can fully appreciate what he has done for his family and the people of Oklahoma, and whereas John Bennett's wife and children are proud of what he has done, even when people were against him, because he always kept his morals clean and put God first, even among the conflict and adversity that he faced, and wished to express their abiding affection and high regard because they've seen his love for God shining through all he has accomplished. And whereas John's wife, Nicole, their children and grandchildren wish to express their appreciation to John Bennett for outstanding, exemplary, and unselfish citizenship which he has demonstrated again and again. Now, therefore, pursuant to the motion of Nicole, Kristen, Kylie, Taylor, Jonathan, Nicholas, and Sawyer Bennett, and the Bennett family lovingly extends to John Bennett sincere love and appreciation. And that constituent that would like to give this to you, Representative Bennett, is your wife.